Namaskar. Hello learners, welcome to the basic course in Assamese. This class gives you mastery in Assamese grammar, particularly in aligning personal pronouns with verbs confidently. It discusses the subject-verb agreement in Assamese determined by person, where the conjugation of verbs takes place. In this class, we are going to learn how subjects and verbs agree with one another in Assamese. The term subject-verb agreement seems to be too technical to understand for learners who have not come across the term yet. However, immediately after attending this class, you will be able to easily understand it. It is very important for you to come across this term, as learning Assamese will be incomplete until and unless you know about it. So today we are going to learn one of the very important aspects of the Assamese language. This aspect cannot be skipped in learning the language. This is also one of the basic and foremost things that we need to learn while learning Assamese. What you are going to take home from this class? Firstly, you are going to learn how to conjugate Assamese verbs with different types of person. Secondly, singular and plural forms of Assamese personal pronouns. The subject-verb agreement in Assamese is primarily determined by two grammatical factors, namely person and transitivity. Verbs in Assamese are conjugated with different endings to agree with the person of the subject, that is first person, second person and third person, regardless of the types of number features, that is singular and plural. The second and third persons also exhibit distinction for social distribution, that is informal, familiar and formal or honorific. For example, kha, the Assamese word for the verb eat, has different forms depending on who is eating and when. In the following declarative sentences in present tense. In first person, it becomes khao, as in moi bhat khao, which means I eat rice, and ami bhat khao, that means we eat rice. So we can see that when a verb occurs with the first personal pronouns moi and ami, particularly in declarative sentences, it takes the suffix u, as in moi bhat khao and ami bhat khao. In case of second personal pronoun informal subjects, that is toi, which means you in singular form, and tohot means you in plural form, the verb becomes khao, as in the sentences toi bhat khao and tohote bhat khao. Both of these mean you eat rice. Here we can see when a verb occurs with the second personal pronouns in informal, that is toi and tohot, in declarative sentences particularly, it takes the suffix wo. In second personal pronoun familiar, that is to me, which means you singular, and tumaluk, that means you plural, the verb becomes khua, as in to me bhat khua and tumaluke bhat khua. Both of these sentences mean you eat rice. Here, when a verb occurs with the second personal pronouns in familiar, that is to me and tumaluk, it takes the suffix wa, as in to me bhat khua and tumaluke bhat khua. In second personal pronoun formal and honorific senses, that is apuni, meaning you in singular, and apunaluk, meaning you in plural, the verb becomes khai, as in apuni bhat khai, which means you eat rice, and apunaluke bhat khai, which also means you eat rice. Here, when a verb occurs with the second personal pronoun subjects in formal and honorific senses, that is apuni and apunaluk, particularly in declarative sentences, it takes the suffix ya, as in apuni bhat khai and apunaluke bhat khai. Please note, All the sentences exemplified here using second personal pronouns are not orders or requests. They are all declarative sentences. In case of orders and requests, which are also known as imperative sentences, the verbs take different kinds of suffixes, which is discussed in another lesson. In third personal pronoun subjects, that is he, which means he, tai, which means she, tiao, which means he or she in honorific and formal senses, and any nouns like Ram, which is a proper name, Nikita, which also a name, Manu, which means person also, the verb kha becomes khai, as in he bhat khai, which means he eats rice. Tai bhat khai, that means she eats rice. Tiao bhat khai, that means he or she eats rice. Rame bhat khai, which means Ram eats rice. Nikitai bhat khai, that means Nikita eats rice. And Manuhe bhat khai, which means humans eat rice. In declarative sentences in future tense, ma and im suffixes occur with the verbs co-occurring with first personal subjects, as in moi bhat kham, which means I will eat rice, and ami bhat kham, that means we will eat rice. Then where does im occur? Please note that ma occurs with the verbs ending with a vowel, whereas im occurs with verbs ending with consonants, as in moi ahim, which means I will come, and ami ahim, that means we will come. The verb ah, which means come, ends at a consonant, that is ha, so it takes the suffix im. Other future suffixes, namely ba, bi, bo, occur with the verbs co-occurring with second personal pronoun subjects, as in tumi bhat khaba, which means you will eat rice. Tumaluke bhat khaba, toi bhat khabi, tohote bhat khabi, apuni bhat khabo, apunaluke bhat khabo, and so on. All of these sentences mean you will eat rice, with differences in the number and social distribution of subjects. Again, their respective allomorphs iba, ibi, ibo co-occur with verbs ending with consonants, as in tumi ahiba, which means you will come. Tumaluk ahiba, toi ahibi, tohot ahibi, apuni ahibo, apunaluk ahibo. All of these sentences also mean you will come, with differences in the number and social distribution of the subjects. In all cases of the subjects in third personal pronouns or nouns, bo co-occurs with third personal subjects, as in tai khabo, that means she will eat, and rame bhat khabo, which means Ram will eat rice. Its allomorph ibo co-occurs with verbs ending with consonants, as in he ahibo, which means he will come, and tiao ahibo, which means he or she will come. So we have observed that verbs are conjugated based on the different types of person of the subjects, regardless of their number features and the type of tense they occur in. On the other hand, transitivity plays a crucial role, particularly in how the subject is marked while agreeing with the verb they co-occur. Transitive verbs often require a specific subject marker, usually a, which may also be linked to agentivity. For example, Rame bhat khai, which means Ram eats rice. Here, kha is a transitive verb, that is, it takes an object. Therefore, the subject or the agent or doer of the action, that is Ram, is marked with the suffix a, which is known as agentive case or ergative case in linguistics. Now let's have another sentence, Ram ahe, which means Ram comes, where ah is an intransitive verb, that is, it doesn't take an object, and hence the agentive or ergative case suffix a doesn't co-occur with the subject or the agent Ram. Thus, subjects of transitive verbs often take the archetype case marker A, which is typically dropped for intransitive verbs. This will be discussed in detail in another class. In this class, we focus mainly on how person manifests the subject-verb agreement in Assamese. We often use and come across the terms first person, second person, and third person in our daily lives. They indicate who are doers of the actions of the verbs, whether it is the self, that is I or we, the other person or addressee, that is you, or an outside entity, that is he, she, it, or they. It defines participant roles in a speech situation or event, influencing pronoun uses. For example, I, you, and he or she, and verb conjugations. The term verb conjugation again may complicate the learning and understanding of a language. Just to know in a few words, it refers to the different forms of verbs while having grammatical markings like those of voice, mood, tense, number, and person. Just relax and sit back. I will avoid using further technical terms that may be unfamiliar to you. The first personal pronouns in Assamese are moi and ami. Moi means I and ami is the plural form of it, which means we. This phenomenon, I mean the difference between the singular moi and its plural form ami, is called suppletive. Here, the singular and plural forms of the Assamese word for you are different. The second personal pronouns are toi and tohot in informal manner. Toi means you in singular form and tohot means you in plural form. The plural marker in this case is hot. When it is suffixed to toi, the e sound of it or the e letter of it gets deleted and it becomes tohot. It also pluralizes general address terms and kinship terms in the language like mahot from ma. Ma means my mother, whereas mahot means my mother and the other or my mother and others. Again, in familiar manner, to me and tumaluk are used for you in singular form and you in plural form respectively. Moreover, in formal and honorific manner, apuni and apunaluk are used for you in singular form and you in plural form. So in case of to me and apuni, another plural marker in Assamese, that is luk, is used. Thus, to me becomes tumaluk and apuni becomes apunaluk. Please note that the final sound e in to me and apuni, I repeat, the final sound e in to me and apuni changes into a when the suffix luk co-occurs with them. So tumaluk from tumi and apunaluk from apuni. Now let's go to the third personal pronouns of Assamese and some nouns as well, such as he, which means he, tai, which means she, teon, which means he or she in formal and honorific senses, ram, that is a proper noun, nikita, again it is a proper noun, and so on. He hot, which means they, is the common plural counterpart of he and tai. Here again, the plural marker hot occurs. Teoluk is the plural form of teon. In case of the plural forms of names too, the same suffix is used. For example, ram hot, which means ram and the other or ram and the others, and nikita hot, which means nikita and the others. Hot usually gives the meaning of and the others or and others, as it implies in addition to the person mentioned. Let's now conclude the class. In present and past tense, u occurs with the verbs co-occurring with first personal pronoun subjects. A, wo, and a co-occur with the verbs co-occurring with second personal pronoun subjects, and a co-occurs with the verbs co-occurring with third personal pronoun subjects. In future tense, ma and its allomorph im co-occur with the verbs co-occurring with first personal pronoun subjects. Ba, bi, bo and their respective allomorphs iba, ibi and ibo co-occur with the verbs co-occurring with second personal pronoun subject, whereas bo and its allomorph ibo co-occur with the verbs co-occurring with third personal pronoun subjects. To briefly recap the distribution of the plural suffixes hot and look, we can mention that hot occurs with toy as in tohot, he as in he hot, and ma as in mahot. Whereas look occurs with tumi as in tumaluk, apuni as in apunaluk, and teu as in teuluk. Other plural suffixes include bur, hokol, and bilak, which are discussed in detail in another lesson dedicated to the grammatical category number. ধন্যবাদ।